Not really, but we'll do our best.
I'm recording right now.
Yay!
Woo! All right. Yay! Shine is back. Took a
Yay.
little break. We had to rest for a little bit. Plus, we had that big trip to New York,
We
so
did have a trip, yes. A little fun.
a lot of fun.
Yes, a lot of fun. That's for sure.
So, kind of with this series and what I wanted to look at, especially with the month of March, month for women, I wanted to talk a little bit about being a mom and motherhood. And there's all different types of motherhood. We've already talked to quite a few women who've adopted. Actually, some are still in the process. We've also talked to some women who are still in the process, moms to be, Katie. And actually, if you haven't watched those, I might repost those so you can take a look at them. But I wanted to talk to Miss Maria. This is good for me because she's a photographer, so she's always behind the camera. So I'm super excited to have her in front of the camera. So thank you.
Makes me nervous.
No, you don't have to be nervous because we talk about this stuff all the time. Anyway, so what I wanted to talk a little bit about is Maria actually has, and what term do we use? I mean, we use the word special needs.
Special needs, I think, is the most common one
The
for
most
us.
common one for you.
I think that's kind of the norm nowadays.
I think so, but there's a lot of terms, so I never want to.
There's a few bad ones.
There's a lot of bad ones. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what that is like, just being a mom to a child who has special needs. I mean, it's a lot different.
Yeah.
And I've known you a long time, and I know Zoe and her situation. But take us back to the pregnancy. Was your pregnancy otherwise, uncomplicated, or did you guys know early on that there might be an issue?
You don't know this?
I do, but
okay.
Yeah.
Well, so Zoe's my second child, and so I know what it's like to be a mother of a normal child for 3 years, and then from that point forward, our lives changed.
Right.
But it was the day before Thanksgiving, and we were going in for a sonogram, and I want to say it was like that 20-week one. We were finding out what we were having, and it was my second child, so I invited my parents to come, and Joe was there, and my other daughter Morgan was there, and we went in, and they're like, "Oh, you have high fluid," and it's a girl, and so that was the first thing, high fluid, and she's small. She's small for your for your how far
gestation.
Right. Yes. So that was our first thing, and then we came back a couple weeks later, and she's falling farther behind. The fluid's a little bit higher. We need to get you into a specialist, but that's going to be like 2 months. I think it was, because this was in December, and they said we weren't going to be able to get in until February, and I'm going to try and cut down on the ums, but you're going to get it.
You're fine.
But we, so they put us on a call list in case of bad weather.
And did you feel fine? I mean,
I feel
was
great.
the pregnancy otherwise
I loved being pregnant.
Yeah,
I loved it.
So you didn't really feel like
like
there was something other,
I
someone would
felt
say, it just didn't feel right. You felt good. Okay.
No, I mean, Zoe's pregnancy was definitely different than Morgan's, but just for different reasons,
Right.
But but I loved being pregnant. I mean, I loved every part of it. I mean, I've had friends that hated it or didn't like being pregnant. Loved their children and all that, but just didn't like it. I loved it. I thought it was great. So no, and so I got called in, went into the doctor's office, saw the specialist, and he's like, "Oh, your husband was a small baby. It's just you're gonna have a small
Poor
baby." Well, Joe was like the 5-pound baby, and I was the 8-pound 11-ounce baby.
Okay.
So it's probably just gonna be a small baby. And we were like, okay. So then they had to see another one of the doctors in that same office.
Okay.
And she's like, "Well, you have high fluid. If your water breaks, you need to go immediately to the hospital. You could prolapse the cord. All these things." And just as the months progressed, I had more and more sonograms, low heart rates, had to give me this, take me to the hospital to do more testing, and then I eventually got put on bed rest for the last, I say 4 weeks of my pregnancy, but they induced me 2 weeks early.
Okay. And then, so before that, was there any indication, like in your ultrasound or whatever, what actually might be happening?
No,
or
just she's small.
She's small, and there's just something going on.
She's
okay.
small.
And then the delivery, how'd the delivery go?
Well, they brought me in on a Sunday evening, April 4th of 2004. Why we couldn't have her that day, I don't know. 444, but we had her the next day, and they gave me an Ambien. I think that's the best sleep I had, and
Wow.
from then on,
We don't do that with ladies anymore.
I think it was Ambien. I'm not sure it was, but they gave me that Ambien, and that's the best sleep I had. And then from that point forward, it's not been the same.
Right.
But so anyway, that next morning they broke my water, started Pitocin. They attempted the epidural. They told my husband, look at this, if it gets any worse on her back, I don't know. So, that was kind of a pain, but, and 2 in the afternoon I had her, and 2 pushes. She was tiny, compared to my other daughter. She was 5 pounds compared to Morgan, who was 8'11". And she had a very retracted jaw. And I thought, oh, this is my second child. Breastfeeding is going to be, just a piece of cake, because I knew how to do it. And she couldn't nurse. And I'm like, what the heck? And I keep trying, and she couldn't nurse. And I'm like, what the heck? And she just kept like gurgling these bubbly things, and and all of that. And her pediatrician had come in and seen her, and she got fairly good scores. Not Dr. Nikki. And just it was. And I'm like, something's not right. So I asked.
It was a struggle.
Yeah, I asked for the lactation consultant to come in because I knew something was wrong.
Right.
I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get her to eat, and I just didn't know. But I knew in my heart something was wrong.
Right.
And so the lactation consultant came in the next day. This all happened that next day at the same time, And they said we're going to talk to your doctor. I think they called my doctor at the time, and get some things ordered, talk to them about what's going on. But she couldn't suck, and she couldn't swallow. She was having swallowing issues. And long story short on that, she had an upper GI, and she had what they called significant GERD. So she would reflux or throw up 5 cc's of fluid. 5 cc's is a teaspoon. So
she was just very small.
Very small.
Poor
and
feeding.
Poor feeding. Very poor feeding. And from that point, they moved her to the NICU. And she was there for 10 days, which, isn't a long time. And at 5 pounds, 8 ounces, she was kind of one of the bigger kids there, which is kind of ironic. But she struggled. It was really a struggle. And I can remember the nurses, God love those nurses in the NICU at St. John's. Sorry.
That's fine. Hey, my kids were at NICU St. John's too. So.
But anyway, they, I remember learning to feed her with the speech therapist, and massaging her jaw to help, and we could only do it for 30 minutes because after 30 minutes she's burned more calories than she's taken in, and all these things that we're trying to do.
And so really at that time nobody really had a handle of what was really going on. Something was different.
Not completely.
She was poor feeding. So as she went through her visits and as her development went,
Everything
just fell behind. Right.
Fall behind.
So at what point did you know, all right, this something's wrong?
Well, I'll tell you, for me, it sort of started when I was leaving the NICU one night, and I was talking to my sister on the phone. This is at midnight, and my sister said to me,
and she's a nurse.
Yeah. My sister said to me, Maria, Zoe's life is going to be different than Morgan's. And I remember coming home and telling my husband, and he kind of got a little bit upset. Well, she doesn't know that. How does she know that? And I'm like, Joe, she's a nurse. She's been a nurse, forever. She worked pediatrics. She worked pediatric oncology. So she nursed. She was in nurse practitioner school, I think, at the time. So I said, I'm just saying what she said. Maybe she's wrong. I hope she's wrong, but she says, we're going to need help the rest of our life with Zoe. And so that's my first. My first thing was my sister.
And so from that time on, she wasn't too off the mark. Just in terms of development and needing therapy, just assistance all along the way.
Yeah.
Right now,
we had a dietitian on board from the get-go. She was
Right.
getting weighed multiple times a week. She almost got put back in the hospital. Yes.
And then ended up having a lot of other kind of other physical things, but it just started to be very apparent that her growth and development was just a lot different. And really no clear answer, no genetic
She's been genetically
marker,
worked up, and we always say she's got Zoe. You know, she's Zoe and she has whatever it is Zoe has. You know, she clearly has something, but it's nothing that's been identified. So.
And now, how old is Zoe now?
She's 14. She's almost 15.
Okay, so describe, and because some people don't know Zoe, but like, how much assistance or what is Zoe's kind of life like, her routine
You know,
day to day?
for Zoe, it's hard to say how old Zoe is mentally because some things she's very good at.
And she's not verbal.
And yeah, she's nonverbal. She can't speak, although she can still get her point across quite well. And maybe she'll make an appearance here in a few minutes. You just never know if she might come by or not. She's in her room right now doing one of her favorite things, surfing YouTube.
She has a great Instagram, by the way.
Yeah, she does have a good Instagram. I mean, her mom is a photographer, so, you know. But I think it's fun. But she, let's see, for Zoe in the morning, I get her up in the morning and I take her to the bathroom and I sit her on the potty.
Because she needs assistance and cues.
Yeah.
Okay.
90% of the time she will go. That 10% she doesn't. I put a pull up on her, and then I get her dressed. That's me getting her dressed. That's not her dressing herself. Or
and
her,
probably fighting you a little bit.
Yeah. You know, yes, she does. I get her socks on, her shoes on. I do her hair. And I go and I get her some milk and I get her some cereal, and she eats her cereal dry. Usually she doesn't really eat it much at all, to be honest.
Does she still like orange food?
Yeah, she's big on orange.
Yeah, I mean, she went through something where...
my oldest daughter, she's always so funny. She's like, yeah, her favorite thing is any orange snack. Like Cheetos or cheddar Pringles, or right now I think we have Ruffles, the cheese and sour cream. Yeah, she loves those right this minute. So she's big on orange flavored colored snacks. I don't know why, but her other favorite thing is fruit. I mean, I sometimes wonder how she's my child. You know, she doesn't want to eat ice cream. She doesn't want to eat cake. She'd rather have watermelon.
Right.
But so she
and she goes to school.
She goes to school. She goes to Lee School, and it's on the south end of town, and we're on the west side, so it's about a 30-minute bus ride. But her favorite part of school is the bus ride. She literally loves it, and you almost have to drag her off the bus. Like you have to go on the bus and get her off the bus because she doesn't want to leave. You know, if she could just ride the bus all day long, she'd be set.
So how do you think, like, you know, because you said you have Morgan, and Morgan's in college, and you know, Morgan, her life has been, I'd say a typical, you know, teenager. I mean, how do you feel like Zoe has made you a different mom?
Well, I mean, some of the things that I think having a child with special needs are great, and some of the things are harder, you know, like different. We spend a lot of time at home, you know, or I go do this when it would normally be mom and dad going to do this, or dad would go do this, you know, a lot of taking turns because it's just not as easy to take Zoe somewhere. We have to arrange a lot of things, like when Morgan was in high school and grade school and playing sports, we'd have to arrange to be able to both attend functions. Because Zoe was afraid to go into gyms, the loud noise, the big space. It just kind of freaked her out. She couldn't do it. I mean, I've tried multiple times. She, you know, it just doesn't work. And so, you know, I found that it's not that I'm excluding her. I'm just doing what's best for each of my children, you know, because back in the day when I was trying to decide where to send my kids to school when Morgan was 5, I thought, how can I send one child to a private school and one child to a public school? And I finally came to the realization I got to do what's best for each child. And each child does different things. So that's what I did.
And I mean, is there, I mean, because there's a part of you, I mean, Zoe's probably going to have to live with you the rest of her life.
Right.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, do you ever go through that, like, grieving of, you know what I mean?
Well, I'll tell you, when Morgan was getting ready to go to college this year, I reached out to one of my dear friends, Bobby, and I said, Bobby, will you take a picture of us, one of my other photographer friends?
Yeah.
I said, I want a portrait because I said, our life is changing. You know, Morgan's going to go to college and it's never going to be the same because this is the closest to empty nest that Joe and I are going to be.
Right.
So, God bless her, we literally in like 3 days put together outfits, and we all met at a little location that we like, and she shot some photos of us for about 30-40 minutes, and we got some great shots. And I knew that point forward our lives would change and our house would never be quite the same. You know, we're going to be home for spring break or summer for a couple of months, but it wasn't going to be like it used to be, and it never will again. So we captured that moment, and we're now in our empty nest phase with Zoe. So it is what it is.
Do you, with Morgan, is it different? Do you feel like you're a different mom to Morgan because she is kind of your child who's, and I don't like to use the word normal or average or doesn't have the same needs.
She's
you know
the
what I
normal
mean?
kid. She
Right,
is, you
right.
know, she's the kid that,
Mhm.
I mean, in some ways I think we sometimes expect more of
Mhm.
her because she is the normal kid
Mhm.
and Zoe isn't, and you know, and I mean, I don't know how it affects Morgan. That's kind of an interesting topic,
Mhm.
you know, that, you know, Zoe never has to put the dishes away, or Zoe never has a
She gets
chore,
more
or,
attention
you know, or,
in some
you know,
ways.
yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, we've tried really hard
Mhm.
to split up our attention, like to do things for Morgan that are
Mhm.
special, or you know, because we can't do this or that, you know. But I mean, I remember Morgan talking one day about talking with some of her friends, and they were saying, you know, how many of your sporting events did your parents go to? And Morgan's like, well, my parents came to everything. 'Cause we did. we worked it as hard as we could. I think I missed one basketball game in high school that she was at, that she performed at, and that was because I was on a mission in the Philippines. So
I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
That's
it
pretty
is.
amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, do you and Joe ever think at some point that you, like, there are kind of homes or places for Zoe as she gets older? Do you get afraid that you won't be able to take care of her the way you do?
Well, we hope we can take care of her until we
Absolutely.
can't, you know,
Right.
anymore.
Right.
And hopefully at that point
Mhm.
in her life and or Morgan's
Mhm.
life, something will work out there, you know, or I don't know, you know. I've always kind of been this believer of, I try to not sort of reach too far out into the future because you don't know what it's going to bring you.
Mhm.
And I had a friend of mine who was one of our residents in plastic surgery where I work, and she had a sister with special needs, and I mean, just kind of having that person to chat with, and you know, have her,
Ashley.
yeah, and you know, I mean, and it's, you don't know what the future holds for Zoe. I mean, I presume she's going to outlive us, but I don't know that because Ashley's sister just passed a couple of years ago at 22, I believe, and I mean, that just, I had a sympathy card for her mom, and I couldn't even send it to her. It sat in my car for 2 years, I think, and I couldn't send it to her mom. And it's not that, you know, it's just because it just was too close to me, you know. So.
And a whole different life for her mother.
Oh, completely. I mean, I can't imagine what her mom's dealing with now, you know. So
because you become very consumed with that day-to-day care, but also knowing
Yeah.
you're the only one that can take care of this child,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I'll tell you some of the things that are awesome about it.
Mm-hmm.
Christmas is like having a 3-year-old every year at Christmas. It's awesome, and she just gets so excited. Hunting
Here she
Easter eggs.
comes. Hey,
Hey,
Zoe.
come here, Zoe. Hunting Easter eggs.
Hey,
I'm
Zoe.
surprised we haven't started yet.
Come here.
Will you come here? Will you come over here?
Well, and I've learned when she comes into my office, we kind of have a little routine.
Will you say hi?
She's like, no, I'm out of here.
She's probably looking for a snack.
Right, I gotcha.
She is.
Yeah. Well,
She'll
I mean,
bring it to me.
well, and that's why I kind of want to talk a little bit about your story, because you know, when you even said before we turn on the camera, it's hard. You know, people stare or they wonder, and that's got to be hard. I mean, don't you want to just be like, enough, stop already?
Yeah, it is. It's hard, and I almost encourage people with little kids that when they do stare, to say, you know, come up. And when they talk
ask
to me,
questions,
because I'm happy to tell them that God made her a little bit different. Do you want some pineapple? Okay. Can you shut the refrigerator, please? Shut the refrigerator door. She's not gonna. She's gonna.
Oh, there we
she's
go.
Gonna. Yay!
But you're right. It's okay to ask questions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I'd rather tell them and they understand. And you know, I think the thing that makes me think about that is, I grew up with an aunt who had a hand deformity. I never thought anything about it because I grew up with it. It was what was normal to me. It was just, you know, as a kid. So I think having kids like Zoe in the schools now, like out at Lee School, it's more normal and there's less of that. And just the other day we were at Barnes & Noble on the weekend. That's one of Zoe's little outings that she gets to earn if she's good at school. And a lady came up to me and said, "Is this Zoe?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "My daughter went to Owen Marsh, and she was one of Zoe's friends." I said, "Oh, is she one of the girls that colored her pictures?" And she's like, "Yes, yes, yes."
I love that.
And so it was just kind of cool, you know. Zoe's got her own little group of people, and
It's
so
all about those exposures
Yeah.
and not being afraid.
right.
Right.
And so I set them up to follow Zoe on Instagram.
Yeah. Follow Zoe's. I love Zoe's Instagram. What is it?
Oh,
by the
I
way?
gotta look it up.
Yeah, I just love it because you know what? It's just about joy
Mhm.
and kind of those simple
It's-
things or experiences or treasures in your day that we totally forget about. I love it.
Yeah, it's Zoe Christie 04.
Yeah, there you go. Zoe Christie 04.
We can put a link
Awesome.
in.
Yeah, we can put a link in the thing. All right. Well, thank you, Maria.
Yeah, you're welcome.
This is awesome. Kudos to you. All kinds of moms.
All kinds
I mean,
of moms.
that's what we're looking at.
That's right.
We are all different. Our children are all different, but we all need to be celebrated, right?
That's right.
Absolutely. And we'll try to get another trip away.
We got big things planned on that. I
We
was
got a
working
lot
on
of
it
good
a little
things.
bit,
Right.
a little bit
right.
today.
So kudos to you. All right. So thanks for watching. Get on Zoe's Instagram. And like I said, we've got all kinds of moms coming up over the next few weeks. But go ahead and review some of the other ones because we've had some good stories. I'm very proud of this soul sister tribe I have. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.